Welcome to your Monday. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, aka your Mr. Monday, and this quick bit of motivation and inspiration was originally published on July 26, 2021. The original message goes as follows. Dictators who rule with an iron fist don't last in positions of power long because the very people they lead always end up turning against them. So going deeper into this one, this is one that I wrote trying to have a little bit of fun, basically riffing off a message that we did a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago by this point, which basically talked about mutinies and making sure that if you're going to have a mutiny, if you decide that you're about to overthrow your grouping, everybody around you has to be in on the plan and have to know exactly what they have to do, I should say, to be grammatically correct. The flip side of that is a dictator who is ruling and doing things, their way, and their way, the highway, don't always last long as dictators because at some point in time, the mutiny happens. People turn against them. And why is that? Because dictators who rule with an iron fist are basically being cruel and unjust. The only people that basically get something for that are the people just close enough to the dictators to be in that circle where they can have a little bit of power, but are right outside the realm of being in the rule where they have to do all the real dirty work. They're essential, the big time henchmen or the people who are the real brains of the operation, while the dictator somehow has the magnanimous ability to pull people in and then force people to work against them. I'm not a dictator, so this analogy may not be one of my better ones, but this is essentially what you have. If you're going to decide to be the person who is just going to kind of lord over everyone, you've got to be careful about who you're lording over, because at some point in time, you're going to push the wrong person the wrong way. And when you push them the wrong way, they're not going to be so keen in following your rules, except for the fact that they don't have a choice. This is the message for bosses who tend to be overly aggressive in their style, and especially if they're overly aggressive and extremely micromanaging. This is for people who have friends that tend to be, the ringleader of the group who sort of dictates how things go and dictate things beyond the realm of what you want to do. This is for people with family members who have the little dictator or the big dictator in the group that sort of makes everyone feel bad about stuff and makes them go that way because they make everyone feel bad about stuff. Think of the bitter uncle or bitter great aunt or something like that who's mad over something. And because of that, everyone does what they can to appease them. That's the kind of things you're looking at. So this is not a message for those who are being under the thumb of the dictator. This is a message for someone who may be a dictator. And this may be your heart grows 3 times the size moment that you hear this. Or this may be one of those messages that just sort of goes over your head. It's one of those that just is what it is. One of the times where the sermon is not so much meant for you, but it's not necessarily a bad sermon, a bad message. This isn't one that's meant to touch your heart. This is an interesting one as it pops up. As you know, if you're deeper into the mythos of Welcome to Your Monday, these messages are all written ahead of time in batches, and sometimes if we're doing fairly well, we are literally about a year or so ahead of time before we actually produce the actual message from when it gets put into the kitty to be ready to go. And we have to kind of go back into the mindset of what was going on when it was written. And sometimes it isn't being rewritten because things have changed in the landscape of time. I'm not exactly sure what the point was on this one, other than the fact that it was sort of a flip on the one from a few months ago about the mutiny. But it's one that is pretty solid and pretty poignant if it is one that is meant for you. And this is one that I have to admit may not be meant for many out there, and the people it's meant for may not listen to it. If you are a person who tends to be overly aggressive in your rule, or in your just life, if you will, since you may not be an actual dictator, you may need to think about that. People around you at some point in time are not going to be so happy to be around you if you're always bullying them around. So take that in consideration. Be less of a dictator, be more benevolent, and just be nicer. And you can also ask those people who you tend to push around just how they feel about the way you act towards them, and try to adjust based on what they say. They will be honest. They will tell you they don't like what they don't like, and it's up to you to incorporate that into a better person. Dictators who rule with an iron fist don't last in positions of power long because the very people they lead always end up turning against them. This original message was published on July the 26th, 2021 from Welcome to Your Monday. For more messages like this one, plus books, merchandise, and other information related to this project, visit the website, welcometoyourmonday.com.